Hello and welcome to Insider, a show designed to clue you into the biggest news, events and announcements inside the video games industry, discussing with you some things you may know, some things you may not, and the glue that holds it all together is a little bit of my own opinion. My name is Paul James, thank you very much for watching, and let's get with our episode. So Google's gaming related plans, which we discussed in an Insider episode only a couple of weeks ago, have finally been revealed. The product? It's called Google Stadia, short for Stadium, and how that's a thing remains to be seen. We might talk about some functionality that maybe connects with that shortly. The product has been revealed, there's some details that have come out, there's some other things that haven't been discussed, but in this week's episode of The Insider, we're going to break down much of that, what it means for you, what it means for the rest of us around the globe, and what it could do to the gaming industry going forward, because this is some big news and we've got a lot to dissect. So let's get into it. So let's begin by dissecting the things that we do know. And it's not a hell of a lot, weirdly enough. We know that 25 megabit connection is going to allow for, and up to 30 will allow for 4K 60 frames per second gameplay, which is great. Everything's going to be streamed online. There's going to be some interesting integration with YouTube where you can be watching your favorite streamer on YouTube, specifically on YouTube. They're trying to get the whole Google YouTube thing going. Watching your favorite streamer on YouTube, and if you like that game, in theory you could actually essentially download the save state within 5 seconds, boot up that same game and pick up from that point. We'll talk about that functionality shortly and what I think about that. It's coming to the US, Canada, the UK and Europe. That's not Australia, that's not the rest of Asia. There's obviously African regions. There's a bunch of the world that's really missing out on this for a variety of different reasons, I'm sure. There is obviously YouTube functionality in terms of the power, the output of Stadia, this online platform thing. It's not a box. In terms of the teraflops that this thing's able to churn out, it is more than the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X combined. So that's great in terms of specs and in terms of quality and power. That's an awesome thing. But we don't know much about games. One game that we do know is going to be featuring the platform is Doom Eternal, and it was modeled in some way, shape or form there. We actually got to see some gameplay for that. So if you're not into Google Stadia and you're not maybe able to actually take advantage of Google Stadia, then at least, if nothing else, we got some Doom Eternal, and that's awesome.
From any screen, at any time.
So for as much as we did learn about Stadia, there's plenty that we didn't. So let's focus on some of those things because they're big things. We don't know a price. We don't know a payment structure. So we're going to have to pay for a controller, the Google Stadia controller, which you will have seen in some of the clips that I've shown in this episode so far. We get the controller that connects to our our Chromecasts that are connected to our TVs, or we can plug in via, we can get into the game via computer. And our controls can sync up with that. We've got a bit more option when it comes to connecting via the PC. We can use our Xbox Ones or our PS4s or even our Switch controllers if that's what we want. That's great. But we don't know what we're paying for. So we'll pay for a controller, and then what does the payment model look like? Is it a la carte? Am I just paying per game that I buy? Is there a payment plan in place? Is there a Game Pass style subscription that's going on? We don't know any of these things. We don't even know the games that are coming to it. We know that Jade Raymond is taking over development of first-party products for Google, so we're going to get some console or some system exclusives from Google themselves, which is great in principle, but it seems like they're a mile off. They're years and years away. Forget all their complaints about Xbox and what they are or aren't doing. Google's even further away. We don't know anything about the games that are coming. We don't know anything about when this thing is going to be available. We know it's sometime this year. We know that we're going to be learning a little bit more information during our winter, our Southern Hemisphere winter. E3 maybe? But there's so much that we just don't know here. We don't know what the rollout plan is. How does it extend beyond the UK, the US, Canada, Europe? How is that going to occur? What is Google going to be doing to help make someone in Australia, such as myself, who has a solid connection, but not a great one, and certainly if I went to go play a multiplayer game, the 25 megabits that I currently require will then be upped even further when there's multiplayer involved. How am I supposed to be able to access that? It's supposed to detect our connections and scale accordingly, but what, do I have to look at a 480p image? Like, what's the point when I can download that game to my PC via our Epic Game Store or Steam or to my consoles, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, whatever they happen to be? I can have those things on my system, and I can download those games or buy a disc from the store, and I won't have to endure any of those complaints. And the only bandwidth issues I'll ever have are if I'm playing an online game, or I guess, you know, if my download in the first place is a little bit slow. But I could get potential dips in a single player experience because my connection blips for a moment. Maybe there's a brief little outage somewhere, not enough to just shut everything down, but just enough to affect my connection, and boom, that's it, trouble. And that's going to affect everyone if it's a multiplayer game. There's so many hurdles that they need to overcome here. I'm going to talk more about those next.
One place for all the ways we play. This is Stadia. Gather round.
So for as awesome, for as ambitious, for as lofty as the goals may be for Google and for Stadia, there are a lot of hurdles that still need to be overcome. Chief among those is lag. Even with the best connections, the best machines, be it PS4, Xbox One X, or a high-end PC, we still encounter lag issues because it's an internet thing, it's a bandwidth thing, and that's being shared across so many people. Here in Australia, we have our complaints with our NBN and all those sorts of issues, and they expect it to just work. And it's just not that reliable, it's just not that consistent or predictable. And then you think about the US, you think about the global community out there and some of these regions who are actually going to get access to Stadia. The United States has an average connection of 18.7 megabits, despite the fact that you need 25 to hit the 4K. There's some math that's been done out there that basically suggests about 4 out of every 5 Americans won't be able to access this in the way that they want you to be able to. I don't have the same figures for Europe. I don't know what that's like here in our own homeland. But 4 out of 5 Americans, a country that they're rolling this thing out to, won't be able to access Stadia in the way that they are basically promoting it. It's a really strange plan. It's a really lofty goal, and I guess it's going to be this boutique item for a while, or boutique concept really. It's not even going to be a physical, tangible thing. There's the multiplayer hurdle that I spoke about before, and the extra bandwidth that's required for that, that's going to cause even more headaches. And then there's this other interesting one. The next generation of consoles is ultimately not that far away. Google have gotten out there and they've said, okay, we've got this much power, it can do this, and it beats the PS4 and it beats the Xbox One. But of course, Xbox, Microsoft, and PlayStation, Sony, are developing new systems as we speak. They're going to be high-end machines. They're going to be more powerful than what we've seen before. These things could come out, and yeah, sure, like right now, based on the current systems available that are developed and released in 2013, I might add, they might be more powerful than those old machines. But will they when the PS5 rolls along? Will they when Scarlet rolls along, or whatever that ultimately ends up being called? This thing could be outdated before it ultimately launches, or not long after when the new consoles actually release. And then all of a sudden I'm sitting back and I'm wondering, well, why would I risk my gaming experience? Because it all hinges on this online connection. When I can pop a disc in, or I can download a game to my system, and let's be real, the digital future is happening and there's more and more people that are downloading their games to their systems. I'm beginning to make that transition myself. Someone who loved having a physical boxed copy of a game. Even I'm starting to make that jump. But it almost seems at this particular point, with the infrastructure that we as a global society have available to us, that they're asking a little bit too much here. We can't make these things happen. This YouTube concept's really interesting, and the developers that may or may not support that's really interesting concept and how it could all finally roll out, but it just doesn't seem feasible at this particular point. And so that concludes this episode of The Insider. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider liking, sharing and subscribing. All those buttons are down below here, and hit that notification bell, that way you're alerted to every new video the moment it goes live on the channel. That includes Patched, more of The Insider, Player 2 Plays, a late game review, Gamer School, and a whole bunch more. There is some awesome content there, so please go and check it out. For written content, please visit the website player2.net.au, where you'll find reviews, previews, opinion pieces, news, features, the Player 2 Writers Draft, and heaps more. Links to our podcast series, Dev Diary and the Player 2 podcast, as well as our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/player2au, where there's awesome weekly streams going on, so go and check those out as well. There may be an awesome new game that's right up your alley, and we'll be playing it there. Visit us on Patreon, patreon.com/player2au, kick in a few bucks. At the lower tiers, you get early access to episodes of this, Patched, and a whole bunch more. At the higher tiers, you get monthly episode exclusives and the ability to join us in the Player 2 podcast, or the Player 2 Pixelcast as it's now become. Finally, there's Twitter. You can find me at Paul James Games, the website you'll find at Player2au. And until next time, thank you very much for watching. That's been this Google Stadia wrap-up. I'm sure we'll be talking about this in the future because there's more news coming. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.